Good morning, Breakfast with Bacon fan. I am Dr. Christine Bacon. And if you've been watching my show for the 10 years I've been on here, crazy 10 years, you would have seen Dr. Joy and Mr. Corley. Is that kind of the right way to say it, you guys?
Yeah.
Or is it Mr. and Dr. Corley?
Be secure.
I'm right. Because they've both actually been on my radio show before. Joy, this I think is your third or fourth time, and Michael, you're second.
Yeah.
Second time.
Well,
Yeah.
welcome.
Thanks for having us back.
Yeah, we love you, Christine.
Oh, we love you too. So Dr. Corley came on my show about 5-6 years ago. She's an author, she's a professor, and she's written several books. And she came to talk about her first book, You Are Beautiful, which we're not going to talk about that today because you can go into my archives and find that show. Well, then we did another show on the season of singleness. Joy, you might want to refresh him in a minute on that. But after we talked about living life as a single and waiting for God's timing, then somehow God did what God does best, and Dr. Corley met Mr. Right. And so we thought it only fair to do a show about what it's like having your prayers answered, being patient, and it is a little show on how was marriage. So guys, just a note, I'm going to tuck a couple marriage questions in today because you've been married, almost 5 years now? 6 years?
Almost.
We're almost a super couple.
July 9 will be 5 years.
Well, technically you're halfway to super couple.
That's what I was going to say. We're halfway to super couple. That's it. Remember, 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so that was just wonderful. And it was very edifying. My viewers, my listeners love that. But today I asked you guys to come back because in your Christmas card, I received a letter, and I'm going to ask you to tell them a little bit about that letter. So again, Joy, Michael, and you guys know to call me Christine as usual. Welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about that Christmas letter.
Okay, so that'll be me, but yeah, and you can just say Joy. I'll just be Joy.
Okay.
To the world, the Lord has come. But yeah, we had it on our hearts, just to let people know, to be in prayer for us, let people know, friends and family that were close to us, that we really felt it was on the Lord's heart and ours to adopt. And so we were excited. We wanted to share it. It was almost like a birth announcement in a way. It was a way of letting people know. And then we've got a website we created that also takes people on the journey with us. And so I've always wanted to adopt since I went on missions trips when I was a teenager. It's always been something I dreamed of doing. And it's something that, we both have prayed about, talked about. But yeah, you'll see the Christmas card. It's got a picture of us like holding a gift in each hand.
It was awesome.
And then, the back, his mother actually gave us a little stocking with a C on it,
right.
And we hung it on our Christmas mantle this year. So it's just kind of an announcement, kind of a
very symbolic.
Yeah. So it's like, hello, welcome to our world kind of thing.
It's kind of the secular way is if you build it, they will come, right? You put the stocking out.
Yeah.
But the Christian way is put the stocking out, God will fill it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
That's right.
I like that.
So my goal, so I asked them to be on the show because I said, you know what, I've got a lot of viewers / listeners, and I love this couple. And I also am very pro adoption. I've had it on my heart to want to adopt a teenager that's a little bit more tricky.
Yeah.
So anytime we talk about adoption, my heart is in it. But for you watching, I want you to pay specific attention this show to just this couple, this love, and what the Lord is putting on your heart, because I wanted to do my part in seeing if potentially a birth mother would watch this show and the Lord would speak to her heart and say, this is the parents of your child. So Joy and Michael, well, let me start with you, Joy. Can you just talk about being single and why would we do a show on it? You didn't exactly get married at 18. There was quite a wait, but you were faithful in that wait. So speak to that season, and then we'll jump into the marriage season.
Yeah, and for anyone who's listening who is a single that's like in their 30s or 40s, and people are starting to say, if you get married, I was in my early 40s when I did get married. And so I'm actually telling my age now. Now that I'm married, I'm actually telling people my age. But it's, with God, all things are possible, and it's worth the wait. And so it's like that season of singleness, it was no time with God is ever wasted. I was able to, sow into so many lives as a teacher, just loving my students and just being faithful and going deeper with the Lord during that time. And so at the appropriate time, when, he'd been putting it on my heart for quite some time, I met Michael, and it was really clear from the beginning that this was the track that we were on. I got a ticket to the train. All I had to do was get on it. And so he just worked it out. Yeah. We did long distance as we were dating, and it gave us a chance to really get to know each other better. Yeah. So
Well, I'd say to know each other in a different way. We weren't in a physical proximity. So we were forced to use other means. Mm-hmm. And that causes you to explore other aspects of yourself. When you're in physical proximity and you're dating, things have the potential to move a lot more quickly, or a lot differently than it would. So we were forced to explore other aspects of getting to know each other, verbally and mm-hmm. through pictures and through stories. And that made quite a difference. Mm-hmm. And, God does things in really interesting ways. Just briefly for me, I went for a long period of time and seek to date, and it seems like there was always something that was a showstopper, always something that got in the way. But the summer before I met Joy, something very powerful and strong came over me that I knew I was to, quote, get my house in order, in the sense that something was going to change, and I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was going to change, and it was a God thing, and I was excited. And then when I met Joy, I knew instantly what it was. So, and I can't explain that, but anybody who's had a similar God experience can relate to it.
Yeah. So what was your season of singleness like, Michael? Do you mind me asking your age?
Well, yeah, as a young man, and certainly a young man at the time that didn't know the Lord, it's different. All of the the hormones are flowing, and the things that young men seek were
right. So much more physical than females.
Oh yeah, we're much more physical and much more visual men are. So for sure. And I went through a period of time. I found myself very frustrated. I've tried to date at times, and it just seems like there was never a compatibility or a mutual thing where I understood a date or a date understood me. And it's not until I got to that point. I was about 37 years old. I first really met the Lord when I was about 31. I had a powerful experience. And for that 6-year period, he worked on me and began to change me. And around 37, I said, you know what? I surrendered. I'm not worried about getting married anymore. I really was concerned that I would spend my life alone. But I finally said, you know what? I'm okay. I'm good with this. And that's when the Lord picked up and just started to move. And it was only a matter of time, a couple of months, where I said, okay, something powerful is going to happen. I don't know what it is, but I feel the Lord's hand upon it. And I started to fix my house up. I just started to move in directions, knowing that I was going to have to uproot or do something. And then when I met Joy, it all became clear. And it was just, the whole thing just happened right before my eyes. And here we are, 5 years later.
That is awesome. Do you mind saying how you knew it was Mr. or Mrs. Right? I mean, was there a moment for each of you? Can you tell them how you met? You met online.
We can do that, but there were a lot of moments. Yeah, and the whole thing was anointed. And Joy, I'll let you tell it. You're a great storyteller. So
you've been doing great. Are you kidding?
You are doing great, Michael. I do want to add that Joy is a PhD in communication. So when Michael, you were talking about, the things that were more important, communication is key, and you married the right person for it, because she was going to analyze your communication so much.
We did that while we were dating. I was getting the personality tests and,
right.
and the love language. I learned a lot about myself. Well, right. I said, oh, wow, I do like that. That's how I didn't know I was a golden retriever.
Did you know what you were getting yourself into? It's like, okay, take this test.
I had no idea. But I think I passed the course. I got an A.
You put a ring on it.
Put a ring on it. Yeah.
So Joy, I know this story, but go ahead and share just a short synopsis on this.
Oh, yeah. How we met was amazing, because we had been online dating, really. We'd been getting to know each other, and just in conversation. From the moment we started talking, we never stopped. And so every night for at least an hour and a half, we would just share. And I had this book of dating questions, so we went really deep with conversation about, just our relationship with the Lord and just things we liked, and we learned a lot about each other. And I was like, wow. But 3 weeks into it, I'm like, Lord, who is this guy? And he just spoke real clearly. You're asking me, how do you know? And he spoke so clearly to me. And he shared just a one sentence answer about who he thought Michael was. And it just was exactly what struck me at my heart. But when we met, this was the fun part. He's such a gentleman, because we had
When you met face to face, you mean?
we'd never Skyped. We'd just been on the phone because we'd send pictures of things and we text throughout the day. So he arranged, I said, well, why don't we meet halfway? I have a friend in Maryland. We could stay there. She's up for it. He said, I would never ask you to do that. I will fly in. I will get my own hotel and we'll go out to dinner and I will meet you.
Your heart was melted already. I didn't know that detail.
Yes. Yeah. So it was funny because I tried to get the jump on him. So I hid at the, to pick him up at the hotel, and he was hiding because he wanted to first look at me.
Yeah.
And then I caught him off guard for a minute. He was talking to his folks, and it was just really
This
neat.
is about midnight too, by the way.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Flight kept getting delayed.
My flight kept getting delayed, and our nice dinner was delayed till about midnight. So we stayed up and talked, and at about 7 o'clock in the morning, I went back to the hotel and caught up on some sleep, and then we kind of picked up later in the evening. So
yeah, we never stopped talking. It was like,
yeah.
and you want to talk about one of the moments where it's like, because we kept it really above board as we were dating.
Yeah.
And in the physical realm, and so about partway through the evening, because I'd seen so many pictures of him, but I knew his voice, and it was like the first time he actually held me. That's when I knew. I was like, it's like the voice and the person connected for me. And I was like, all right. It was just one of those neat things.
She got to know me well enough, Christine, that the idea was we'd go back to her condo and she would make a dinner, and we'd talk and we'd catch up, and she was courageous enough or brave enough to do that, but she was very nervous.
Yeah.
And initially I thought that, maybe we weren't going to strike on all chords. I couldn't read her as to whether or not she was comfortable. She was very nervous. And then she said she was showing me how she plays worship and working the keyboard, quite skilled. And then she said, "You want to try and snuggle?" And I said, "Well, okay." So we kind of just snuggled up on the couch and watched. We watched The War Room, and we watched the great movies. And now it was the other one we watched.
Well, Fireproof was one of them.
Yeah.
I had a list.
We had a list. So we stayed up and talked a lot and did that. And that's what she was referring to when she said the first time that I held her, and just kind of put an arm around her. And she said, "That's it. We're and she just knew." And I guess I did too, but it was more powerful for her in that moment. So, and that was it. It's history from there.
Yeah, it really was.
So we spent the weekend and went to church and met Pastor Chris, and he's a neat guy because he's so protective of her. And he said, "So what's going on here?" And I passed his test. So it was quite a journey. It'd take us a lot of shows to cover all of the neat aspects of it. But
I remember. Go ahead,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I remember because you'd been single for, said 40 years, and you were really trusting God completely, both of you. And so it kind of got this point where you're comfortable in your singleness, but then you're like, okay, God, how do I know that I know this is the right guy? And you said that sentence that God said to you was, "Joy, he is a good man." I mean,
yes,
right? He is a good man.
Yep.
And did your heart go to peace at that point? Were you just like?
Yeah, it was, because I had really been pressing in to pray, and I'd gone up for prayer. I'm glad you said it, because I didn't remember if I had. And it was I'd gone up for prayer the first weekend that we started talking, just for freedom from fear. Having not really ventured into the dating arena really since college was the last time I really dated. So it was like I needed to be delivered from fear. And so I just continued to pray for like 3 weeks, and then the Lord just broke through. I was outside near the cross at CBN, and he said to me, I just watched Captain America, and I was like, now that guy is sterling. And so he said to me, I said, "Who is he, Lord? Who is he? You know him. You know his frame. Who is he?" And he said, "He's a good man." And I was like, that's it.
You didn't know I was Captain America, did you, Christine? No,
No.
I'm getting your autograph next.
Yeah, well, a little ways to
He
go
tries
there.
to be Superman. He's got the shirt. So he thought he was.
My nephew thought we was
when he
about
was
6
little.
at the time.
No,
Yeah,
he was like
yeah.
4.
Okay.
Definitely littler.
Well, I'm surprised about the Captain America because Joy always told me that she married Superman.
Well, he is
Well,
Superman.
okay.
He's got the Superman shirt, but the Captain America line, the integrity, the just because he was a
Right.
But, just to add to that briefly, Christine, as Joy and I conversed, she had questions about me and I had questions about her. And we would simultaneously text each other without knowing it. And we would, without knowing it, many, probably 50 times or more, would answer the exact question that we each had. The answers would just flow in at far too many times for it to be coincidental. So it just was absolutely supernatural in a lot of ways. And this went on for months.
Mm-hmm.
So from the moment you got that first online connection till the day you were married was how long?
9 months.
Yeah, roughly 9 months. Yeah.
When you know. And that's what I try to tell people with my marriage seminars is long engagements are a newer, what's the word, Joy? It's a newer creation. It used to be you saved yourself for marriage, you found the right person, you married within, a few months, and then you had a family right away. But we don't have to talk about that because anyway, that's a different radio show. Well, let's go into it then. So you two have now been married 5 years. Before we talk about the baby that I want, your birth mother to see the show, or and you just to encourage other people seeking or maybe having infertility issues so this show is kind of going both directions. So, but talk about the first 5 years of marriage then. Was it easy right away? You're a PhD in communication. Michael, you both waited. Had to be perfect, right? Notice the sarcasm.
Not quite.
Did you want to start or you want me to?
It's what it is that really causes you to discover yourself. You come to find out who you really are because you really have to share yourself with somebody else. And if you've never done that before, if you've never lived with somebody, and that idea of sacrifice or putting somebody first, you get a real crash course in what that means.
Yeah.
And I found out that I thought I'd be great at it, Christine, and I wasn't so great at it for about a year plus before I understood how to, relate to Joy and to, consider her needs over mine. Sure, it's in an academic sense, you can define it and you can talk about it, but in a realistic sense, to understand it, to move it from your mind to your heart, so that things are meaningful in the relationship. I guess I don't really care who you are. It's something you have to learn or get some experience. So.
Yeah, married at 18 or married at 80, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the communication thing was the big thing for us because we sat down with Pastor Chris and Dahlia a year or two in to everything, and the question they asked was, "What's the hardest thing, that you guys have encountered?" And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I was like, "You first, honey." And we both were thinking the same thing, and it was conflict.
Yeah.
It's like unmet needs, or just you're tired, or you're frustrated. You're learning to share your heart with someone. Yeah. And so we both have different conflict styles, and our personalities are kind of similar, but we have differences. So learning how to communicate more effectively too, ironically, so it's right. There's a journey in that, and we're still working on that
till the day you die.
And I would say that the two things that really make a difference are, one, to give the other person, give grace, and be a good forgiver. Mm-hmm. Billy Graham said the secret of marriage is 2 good forgivers, and I think that's very accurate.
Very wise man. I mean, God rest his soul. Very wise man. Yeah. When you mentioned the word sacrifice, did you know what the word sacrifice means?
Why don't you define it for us? I think we do.
Sacra is holy. Ficia is to make. So sacrifice in your marriage is to make holy. And so many people come into their marriages trying to become happy. And I teach them, no, marriage is designed to make you holy. If you go after happiness, you lose them both. But if you go after holiness, you gain them both. And sacrifice means, Michael, you had 40 years of doing things Michael's way, and Joy, you had 40 years of doing things Joy's way. And so coming together, it's like, I've always put my shoes this way. I've always had dinner at this time. I've always done that. And to get this other person in there, it's these little things. You're like, why why are you doing it that way? I've learned the right way. So it's like, you know.
Yeah, we have perfect examples of that, Christine. There's too many to list, but probably the number one is the slipper thing.
Oh, tell me.
Joy likes this idea of, certainly nothing touches the bed. She likes their
Clean.
She likes things clean. And her idea was you wear slippers. We wouldn't wear shoes in the house. And I was raised that way. But I never thought to wear slippers in the house. And she wanted me to wear slippers. I said, I'm not wearing slippers in the house. I'm not doing it. But, now I don't know what happened, but I love to wear slippers in the house. But it had
feet
to
don't feel the same if they're off your feet.
There are things that have changed about me that are I don't know. We've just learned to kind of grow together. And now the little silly things like you comment that are things of conflict that you learn to resolve and become into better people as a result. But you have to be willing to, like
sacrifice.
Sacrifice.
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful the way you said that too, because it is.
I never thought of it that way.
Well, Jesus came up with it. I just kind of,
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Thanks, Jesus.
That incorporated that.
How about you, Joy? What have you had to learn to sacrifice as a married woman?
Well, I think women are naturally more like other oriented, in terms of like I've always wanted to nurture and take care of. So that's always been there. I've always wanted to cook, always wanted to like keep things nice. But sacrifice, I think like time, I think would be the thing. It's like, and I've always wanted to be a mom too. And so, we're working in that. But I really feel like I love being married. But the time to do, some of the things I had done before. And
like
so we're kind of getting back. Yeah, we're kind of getting back to basics again with the two of us, where I'm like, I got to stay the girl that he fell in love with in Virginia Beach. There's stuff that I love to do that I still need to do. And I think you can get lost sometimes in just taking care of your husband, that you lose your first love sometimes, in the sense of, that I was worshiping more. I was, doing more things and with COVID, it's been a little more challenging, but doing more things with my first love. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so bringing me back to that place, because it's only when I'm connected to him in that way, where he's the source of love, that I can really effectively love Michael. And, I've had to struggle with like some selfishness and different things and patterns you see your parents do, that you don't necessarily want to do.
Right.
There's good ones, and then there's let's not go down that road ones. And so, but I love what you said about sacrifice and it making you more holy, because I really feel like that is really the work that God does through marriage. I really think that's,
It is the literal two shall be as one. Tying your flesh together is painful. There's a supernatural needle that's sewing you together, and it hurts. I've had stitches, which is why when you struggle, when people divorce, which is a whole separate issue, that's why it hurts so bad, because you are supernaturally tied together. And, but I hope I don't say anything that's embarrassing. I just have to be funny, because the average people, I don't want them to look at you and think you're just all put together because you're gorgeous and you're smart and everything. But, they were joking before we went on the air that they put on a couple pounds since I couldn't notice since like COVID. And I said, also, I don't know if I've told you this, that gaining weight, at least small amounts, is a sign of a happy marriage. Because when people are losing weight, when they're struggling, they don't want to eat, they don't. And they tend to lose weight when marriages are breaking up. So the fact that you guys said that, I'm like, that's another side of a happy marriage. I'm happy you're happy. Let's go have some tacos,
Right?
Well, I found that I'm really good at that eating thing. I don't know if everybody's good at it, but I'm good at it.
So let's food. It's like Italian food everywhere.
Lots of Italian food.
Yes, you're very Italian. Yes. So let's go to the kind of the meat of today's show. So immediately when you got married, I believe you guys tried to conceive. And so can you take us there, and what was your journey now towards where you currently are today, which is being approved for adoption?
Okay, so there's three different ways you can adopt. You can do private adoption, foster care adoption, or you can go through an agency adoption. And so, we're still going to continue to try for kids, but we prayed about this part of the journey. And so, I don't know how much to say. I'll do the short version of it. That's what I'll do. It's like we prayed about, do we do foster care adoption? And is that the right fit? Do we do infant adoption? Do we do, through an agency adoption? And the Lord just put someone on our path who's amazing. It was a Christian adoption agency. And he's always been like, because I work with CareNet, I have in the past volunteered, and they are incredibly pro-life. And so they have people coming in who need parenting classes and real things like diapers and formula. And so I helped with that. While I was here, I just volunteered the second year I think we were married. Yeah. And then Michael's like, you should just talk to the lady at CareNet and let her know. And so I did. And so she's an advocate, but she also put me onto Christian Adoption Agency, and we connected with Amber from there, who was leading the agency, but she did a home study. Yeah. So we did private adoption because we were able to have the flexibility during COVID to work with the same attorney that they worked with at the agency, the same gal that worked for the agency, to help us with the home study. So we're approved as far as I know. We did the home study. We've been fingerprinted. Nice. So my right hand doesn't take fingerprints, I find out. I've been washing it too much. Yeah. I was like, wow.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I would be like an awesome thief, like awesome.
Like, right? Okay.
Like, legit.
Either that or you're an alien, Michael. Have you checked for pods in the basement, or are you too young to know what that means?
Oh no, that's a good idea. I should still do that.
Did you guys ever see Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
I've heard that movie. I have not seen that one, but I've heard of it. Yeah, I've seen it.
They had pods. So you'd see all people, and all of a sudden you look and there's a pod in the basement, and that's your person came out of that. But check for the fingerprints.
Good point.
Yeah. So, but I don't want to miss the kind of the hard part, or was there a hard part? Was there a sad part? Because just going, I'm getting married, I'm going to adopt. Most people go through a little grief, or like, I'm trying right away. Everything's going to be fairy tale. We'll have lots of babies. And so can you share that part?
Yeah, I can. And it is the hard part. And I think it was coming into marriage, really being healthy, and the doctor giving the thumb, go for it. And then we did try IVF. We should have just gone straight to IVF instead of IUI, I think. Just briefly, and just keeping it simple, with hormones and just, increasing that. But it was really a tough time for me emotionally because of the hormones, but also you gain weight when you go through it. And he's like just newly married to me, we're 6 months to a year in, and he looked at me one day and he said, Joy, nothing has changed. I love you, kind of thing. Aww. Because I was just really weepy a lot. Yeah. And then that people say that you become like kind of witchy, and that didn't really come till the end of that whole thing. But you go through the sense of loss of, of the Lord will. But I love Michael because through the whole thing, he always said to me, we always want God's best, Joy.
Right.
We always want God's best. And from the beginning of the journey, before we even, went through anything or even looked at foster care or looked at adoption, the Lord was like, I said, what are you doing through this whole thing, Lord? And he said, I'm enlarging your heart, Joy. I'm enlarging it. And so it's like, I think the worst thing for me is when people feel sorry for you when you're in that place, because I'm actually at a place of peace with all of it. And so, but there's that hard road, probably from about 1.5 years in to the 3-year mark, where it was just really tough emotionally. And you just had to say, all right, Lord, I just want your best. And I trust that you've got your best. And I know that we're designed for family. And I know that we're designed to be parents. And I know there's a little one out there that's going to be so loved. And I understand adoption so much more, as a result of it. But I wasn't alone going through the process. I had another friend that is still going through some of this.
Yeah.
And she's looking to adopt now too. And so, when you talk to some of the other moms that are going through the process, and you realize what a miracle life is, and it makes you cherish. I think that's the neat part coming in as older parents, is you really cherish children in a way that I don't know if I would have younger. It's like you really value them, and you say, I feel like I have more patience You
Yeah.
know, it's like more
Yeah.
like I would never, you know, you say this in your mind, I'm hoping I stay true to it, but you see parents with kids that mistreat them or do something, and I just want to shake them and go, do you understand the gift
Yeah.
that you've been given, and appreciate it and love that child?
Yeah.
So
That's a good point you bring up, Christine. You know, you can consider yourself when you were younger in your 20s, you know, your prime childbearing times, you know, or you can consider how you think differently when you're in your 40s and you're more patient, you're less needy. You know, when you after 20, the older we get, the less we seem to need for ourselves, and that's how I feel. That's how Joy feels. You know, maybe that's not necessarily true. Our needs or our desires change. They shift a little bit as we get older or mature, whatever you want to call it. We look at our parents, and we you know, discuss with our parents the mistakes that they made and how they do things differently, and you see how that's manifested with their grandchildren. My brother has a little boy, and my father is a totally different guy with that little boy. It's like, who is this guy?
That's my husband. My kids are like, thank God you
Yeah.
didn't have sons, Dad, or you'd have been me.
Yeah.
But you're such a
Yeah.
good grandpa.
Yeah. So there's something that comes with age in terms of your ability to, you know, relate differently to children, and I get that. But, you know, just going back to the IVF thing, you know, for Joy, you know, we both were checked in the sense that we're both healthy to be reproductive.
Able to conceive, right?
Oh, able, yeah. So now you're asking God, okay, if we're so healthy, if we both are, then why hasn't this happened? And you know, sometimes it seems like God's silent, but other times it's he just says, it's kind of like saying, hold on, there's a plan, and there is a plan here, and God does. What Jeremiah said, I know the plans I have for you, to prosper you, give you a future and a hope, not to harm you. You know, he has the best in mind.
Yes.
And once you understand that and you realize that, there's a reason why God gives you children at a certain time where he doesn't, because he's got a bigger plan. We only see in part, but God sees the whole thing. And you have to trust and you have to realize that. So, but for the IVF thing, especially for Joy, the things that people don't realize is you've got parents on both sides that are pushing for grandchildren. I want grandkids. You've got siblings that have kids. And all of a sudden it becomes a pressure for her. Not only does she want kids, but now she's expected to be able to, and she has to do the work. Yeah, the woman has to do the work, right? You know, there's not much work in it for the guys. You know, spoiler for the guys, okay? But
they do all the fun. We do all the work.
Yeah, you know. But as she was going through it, though, the doctor's visits, the blood draws that she was doing to check her, and those, that messes with you when you're trying to mix all that. And I didn't understand what you need to have, or the follicle stimulating hormone and the other hormones that need to be kind of shaped so that, you know,
right,
your body acts like it did when it was 22. You know, all that, and the injections. Can I tell about that? Yeah. She had to have these regular injections, and this is one of those 4-inch needle things. And I was supposed to do that to her, and you know, upper lower part of her back, you know, and the
every day.
Yeah.
Did it hurt, Joy?
I'm like, are you? Well, I couldn't do that. I'm not a person that likes needles at all. So, you know, I just couldn't do it. So fortunately we had a friend, and I'm over, what am I going to do? Am I going to press this thing in slowly? And I had a friend who's a nurse. She came over, she says, no, throw it like a dart. Oh. So I had to kind of make a spot, and you take this needle, and you throw it like a dart.
I didn't know
you're
that.
pushing this thing in 4 or 5 inches, whatever it is. It's like, wow, I don't want to hit anything. You know what I mean? It's scary. And he did that for weeks, and eventually, I just watched her start to succumb to this, you know, therapy. I said, enough's enough. Mm-hmm. God is more than capable of giving us. We don't need to help God. God doesn't need any help.
Right.
You know? So
is it not lost on you guys? It's not lost on me, the fact that he made you wait so long to find each other. And he's making you wait to find your child. I mean, did one of you pray, or both, for patience when you were younger?
Yeah, why don't you start? Yeah. I'm trying. You're making me think hard now.
I think I did one too many times.
Yeah.
But truly,
go ahead.
No, but truly, he is making you both wait. And I always think I just see so much more big picture these days, the community, those who are watching you, those who are saying they can wait and they're surrendered to the Lord. And it's not easy. I'm glad you guys are sharing this stuff going, oh, it's not easy. And if everything had come easily to you, what would be in that? But, you know, when you have waited for each other, I know from knowing you guys now 5 years or more for you, Joy,
Yeah.
that there's this greater appreciation, just like you're talking about this child. When he or she is in your arms, the appreciation is going to be so much greater than had it been easy for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think for me too, as a woman, it's like you have to also recognize that your purpose is rooted in who you are in Christ. And so if we have kids, which we will, we're going to adopt, Lord willing one day. But it's, I guess in my own family growing up, and maybe there's someone listening that needs to hear this, but everyone married really young. So 18 to 21, boom, everybody. And I'm not kidding. My sister, my mom, my grandma, everybody I knew was married very young, and they struggled in their young marriages, some of them, but all of them had beautiful kids. And so there's this, I wanted to wait until I was in the right place to have all of that. But it's just, I guess I want to say this for someone who's listening. That was my mental model. It was like, wow, that's where I should be. But everybody's story isn't the same. And everybody God writes a beautiful story with our lives. And I loved mine. I've absolutely loved everything about it and everything that he's done. And so for me, here's the different thing. A child for me is someone I can love. You know what I mean? It's not someone that I need for my own identity or anything. I just want to take care of a child and to love them and see them grow up to be who they are in Christ, and to give them a safe haven to do that. So for me, it's changed in the sense of, that's not, I don't want to say your purpose isn't, you know what I mean? I know so many couples that don't even have children, that have beautiful marriages or are single and have lived a beautiful life. And I feel like oftentimes our society wants to cookie cutter people and say, you must look a certain way. But my love story doesn't look like anything I would have, but what a beautiful story he ended up writing. So we're excited. That was a long version of that.
It's a good version. It's a good version. Well, so, I would like to think that your child's birth mother is watching the show, or a family member. What would you want that person to know most about you? To say, this is who I am. Although I think they have a good idea already. What would you want them to know about?
I guess I just would want to say, if they're actually listening, that I guess that, I don't want to say this, that we are praying, that we think that you're incredibly courageous for even considering carrying your child, but also we would absolutely, this is when I get to cry, absolutely love them unconditionally and provide a safe place for them to be everything that God has made them to be.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that your comment about sacrifice comes back again, Christine, because it's hard to part with, a little child that's your little child. But I think a lot of young women are probably, and I have no experience with this, it's just an assumption, but they're probably faced with the idea of what's best for my child.
Yeah.
If they're in a situation or a circumstance that they can't provide that baby with the best life, then there's that sacrifice. You're gonna, you can be selfish or sacrificial or anything. You can keep something to yourself because of what it means to you. And Joy and I have talked about this. Or you can release something, even though it's the harder thing to do, for the best. And Joy and I, we've waited for God's appointed time. We know that God's going to move on the heart of some young woman and her family, and we're going to connect with her, and we're going to raise her child. Whether that child's a little boy or a little girl, God's yet to reveal that, but He's revealed enough that we know that that's a time appointed for the future, and not too distant future. We have a sense of that. So.
And I have such.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Oh, you're sweet. I just have such a heart, having worked in the pro-life area for so long, that so for me, it's like, I'm not, how do I say this? Like, I meet birth moms and I just encourage them, raise your child. There's no part of me that is pining or waiting. You know what I mean? I just want the best. and I just care about people in general, and I want the best. So whatever that is, I'm open. But we just are already praying for that birth mom. I have a place in my heart for her. I want to walk part of that journey with her, and it's something we'd stay in touch afterwards with pictures and cards and letters, and however open that ends up being.
That was my next question. So you guys are going to have an open adoption. So you're already starting to answer it. So what does that mean for this person?
Well, and that's still something we're trying to figure out too. And I think it just depends on the situation. But I mean, there are situations where a mother's actually giving birth at the hospital and they call, the folks that we're
Adoptive
connected
parents.
with. And then it's like, you're instantly a parent, or there's the couple months leading up to it. And so what was your question again? Because I just got taken away.
The open adoption. So I think you told me open adoptions can be the degree of how much is open is that an agreement between you and the birth mother, or how does that work?
Yeah. And so I think that's yet to be determined, but I know that if I were in that position, I would always want to know because it is a sacrifice, that little one's okay. I would want to see them grow and just know I'd made the right choice, and it's like, and so the degree to which the connection is there would be determined, but I think it's important for that child to know who their mom is,
Right. Right.
And I'm not interested in hiding that, it's part of how they understand their own identity in that way. And I don't want to ever shock, we'll have to figure this out as we're going, because this is something I don't have all the answers for, but I would never want to shock a child when they're 18 with the knowledge that, that would be horrific.
And we've been represented by, counselors who are specialized in this area. And those are some questions that we've asked. And we've come to the conclusion that we would tell the baby or the child as soon as they're old enough to know. We would kind of start to prepare them for that in the terms and the likeness they can understand. And, the child would know its mother, and there's got to be a healthy type of an exchange. Because who's the parent? Are Mike and Joy the parents? So that has to be, both boundaries have to be established, because it's not healthy for the birth mom, not healthy for us, and it's not healthy for the child if those aren't. But certainly no one's looking to take a little child away and run away with them and keep them from knowing. I think that's the worst thing you can do. I think that openness and that transparency is the most important.
Because then the kids trust you. If they know that there's no secrets, the trust, which is the basis of every good relationship.
I think people do that, Christine, because they're not counseled in it, or they don't understand. They have some kind of underlying fear.
They're going to love the birth mother more than me, or leave me, and
Sure. Yeah.
And it gives you that opportunity so they know they're twice chosen. I have a book on adoption called Twice Chosen. And it's that sense that we're adopted as well. You know what I mean? And that gives the picture of a father's heart that he chose us. And so it's like, no, you don't understand. We chose you, and we were chosen too, to be a part of your life and loving you.
I was just joking with my son-in-law. My daughter turned 37 yesterday, or actually Saturday. And, she was having her little bit of flaky moments, like she loses her mind. She's pretty high strung. And I looked at my son-in-law and said, I made her, but you chose her. So you made a conscious choice. And that's what you guys are doing. And that's true love. I know how you are, and I'm still choosing to love you,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's good.
Michael, I have a question specifically for you. Actually, it's more of a opening, for a comment, but your thoughts on this. I'm Catholic, and the Pope announced that this year, 2021, is the year of Saint Joseph. Never in the 2,000 years of the church have we honored him as this foster father, this dad who raised a boy who he did not conceive. And thinking of being a father of a child you didn't conceive, but the great responsibility as that child's father on earth. Have you considered that at all? Or
yes,
if you
I have.
Can you speak to that?
So sure. I should preface that by saying that I was raised Catholic as well.
We'll get you back.
So I'm still, it's interesting. That's a side discussion, but
Oh,
Joy,
okay, we'll do that when we go off the air.
we visit the Catholic Church and we're great friends with one of the priests. So anyway, that's part of my upbringing and heritage. But yes, I think about that. How will I be able to love a child that's not mine the same way I'd be able to love a child that was mine? And that's a question I think every guys are very different. We're again visual. Our hearts are expanded differently than like Joy already open. She just, we have to see for a man, it's as soon as you touch or see or hold a baby, then that's where the connection's been. A real good example. There was a movie in the 80s. You might have seen it. Remember the movie Willow? Remember that movie?
I heard it, but not enough to remember the storyline.
Well, they were smaller folk, and I'll keep this short. Smaller folk. They were kind of they called them Nelwins, and they were and the normal size folks. They were a larger race, and they connect. What happened was this little baby was part of some prophecy, and they wanted to save her from an evil sorceress. So they put her in a stream. It was kind of a Moses thing. And they sent her down the stream, and this little Nelwyn guy, this guy Willow, his kids find this baby, and the Willow says, "Don't touch the baby. We don't know where it's been." And the kids and the mom come right out, and they pick the baby. They're in love with the baby immediately, and he's not. Okay, he doesn't want anything to do with the baby. He's like, "What do you think you're doing?" And then the mother says, "Hold her." And as soon as he holds her, he looks at her, and the baby looks at him, and there's this instant fatherly connection between this character Willow and this baby. And then the whole journey of the movie is how he ends up saving this baby from this evil. It's just real neat love story between him and this baby. And I think that was a really good indicator, because for guys, we don't have the same depth to our imagination or our kind of our love understanding, if that's even a way to phrase it. But once we see something, and I've experienced that. Joy's nieces, Naomi's a little baby at the time, and she was a cute little kid. But when I held her, I felt myself getting attached to her, getting connected to her, and that's just
bonding is real.
Yeah, so I'm convinced that when a man, certainly when he sees his own child be born and he holds it, there's a connection. And likewise, an infant or a baby that he holds that he knows is his, and then that connection's made between, I'm going to take this. It's the same thing. I think that it's just, that's what happens for a man. As soon as he's able to make that initial connection and hold that baby and see that baby react to him and vice versa, that's where that connection's established. So I often wondered about that, but I don't wonder about it anymore. That's going to be a natural thing that it
will be natural.
Just works. Yeah, it'll just.
And I think of the movie Nativity Story, because I've always said, you just remind me of Joseph, and it's neat that you're talking about Joseph and that whole thing with the Catholic Church, because he loved this child.
And he protected, he risked his life. He hid this child and his mom. He did everything God asked, and he said, "You tell me, I'll do it." But the role of the father, I just want to protect this mother and this child, my wife, my child. I want him to grow up to be, I could see St. Joseph, working in the carpentry office or shed or whatever you have, and teaching his son how to hold a tool properly and how to become a man,
Yeah. Well, that's true. There's definitely that aspect of it between a man and his little boy, but there's also something special between a man and a little girl, a little baby. That I find myself, I find that they're real neat the way they hop around. They just do squeaky voice. They just do different. Little boys and little girls do different things, and they're both really neat in different ways. And I find myself starting to get really attached to Joy's nieces, especially the baby, who's she's really smart. She knows how to really give it back to me in the right way. She's real neat.
So cute. She's just such a cutie pie, and she's a cuddler.
Yeah,
I love her. Every time she's 6 now, but I saw her recently, but she just wants to be held. So she'll just keep running into my legs. And so I'm like, "Honey, do you want me to hold you?" And I'll just pick her up, even though she's 6 and she's a little heavier and I'm still strong enough for it. So,
just a really brief story, Christine. The kids a few years back, when they were all really little, they knew I played football in high school and all. They bought me this football-sized candy display. So imagine the size of a football. They can hold.
Is that how you put on that 5 pounds after your wedding?
It helped. But you'd fill this thing up, and over a 9-month period, I'd be able to empty it out. I didn't eat a lot of candy.
Yeah, I stopped filling it eventually.
Yeah, but
But the kids would come and get their share too.
well, that's the story. So this is literally football size, and you push the button, and you get a few pieces of candy. I filled it. In 20 minutes, the kids were there. That thing was empty.
Mm-hmm.
Then we filled it again, and then it was gone. I said, "Wait a minute, this thing's gone. What happened? Who ate it?" And the baby comes out and says, I did. This little baby ate nearly that whole thing, and she was up until what, 2:00 in the morning.
Oh no.
She played
Her
with
mom
the
was so
for
happy.
like 2 straight hours.
So,
I've never seen
she did.
anything. She was just one after another, getting
Yeah,
everything back to you for 2 straight hours.
Yeah, it was
That
amazing.
was a lot of chocolate.
She ate that whole thing. Amazing.
But I love girls too. I mean, I love little boys, but I know I love my nieces. Oh my Lanta. But your nephew is adorable too.
Oh, Joey, he's
Sweet,
great.
sensitive, little Italian boy.
You play swords, you play football, you play, well, we've got a fun story. We'd like to get the Nerf guns out. Joy is our target, so it's fun.
He wants to make a bond
The
with me.
the little boys like to kind of target the girls. It's
Yeah.
boys against the girls. So.
Yeah, I think every family should have Nerf guns in their house.
Yeah.
They are the best moms and dads and boys and daughters. It's awesome because I have them here and you get the high powered one, you get the little ones. My daughters got so mad because this Christmas, you know what I gave my 14 and 12-year-old grandsons? Rubber band guns.
Oh yeah, they're great.
They were $30. My daughter's like, why would you do that? And I said, of all those gifts they got, guess which one they're playing with the most? And they pop you with that thing, but they have fun doing that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, we're running short on time. Let me just ask you one more thing besides before we do the formal kind of. What is one, if you could share with me one vision of when I'm a mom or a dad, I see myself doing this with my child, like one fun, I can't wait to make this memory kind of moment.
You got to go first on that one.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of times when we have a lot of visions or moments, but I guess I see myself, taking walks in the park or just the simple things. Probably in reality, playing with a little dog. There'll probably be a little dog that we mixed into the whole thing, and it's all the little simple things, Christine. I think that the trips over to get ice cream cones and. I really think that the holidays, it will be a lot of fun. Christmas time, because of the anticipation the kids have. All of those little things are just a bunch of little ideas that kind of get jammed together. You just have a series of visions or thoughts. Specifically, when you're there doing them, you have thoughts about how they're going to be different, how they're going to be enhanced or increased. Because a lot of times their significance, I'm not going to say Christmas, certainly Christmas is about Jesus, but a lot of the things you do in family gatherings, they're like Sunday dinners and such. Their significance is increased when there are children around. It's really, becomes largely enhanced or greatened by the presence of little kids. Just gives them substance,
And I can't believe you said the park because the very first image I had was the baby stroller walking because we have so many different parks in our area.
Yeah.
It just be so wonderful just to walk and that would be one of the things. But everything he said, and then I blog too. I need to get back on doing it. But with Christmas and memories and stuff, it's like we have a website and I've got like pictures of little girls holding gingerbread cookies or a present or getting your first Christmas tree together. That kind of stuff. It's like you imagine what that's going to be like. Do I have,
Well, Joy and I do a lot of things that are fun. They're actually little kid things. So
Yeah.
Are we like
That's because she married you, Michael. Men are always children. She understands.
Yeah, well, that's true. We go to water parks. We go to the mall and we find all the places where you can play. And we see some of the families with their kids. It's a lot more fun. You imagine, hey, I'm having a great time. Like the ropes course. You can walk these ropes courses at the mall. Anyway, you realize immediately I'm having great fun. If we had a little one, this would be a lot more fun.
Yeah.
So what you find yourself doing is really kind of getting yourself ready to know what to do so that you can come back and do it again.
Yes.
This is a water park.
How about Disney? You imagine we went to Disney for the first time together,
Last year.
before
COVID.
And then we're like, well, geez, we'll have to do this again. And, the little princess thing that little girls get to do. Lots of visions flood forward about
Yes.
your little girl might look like. That's neat stuff. And that's something I didn't think about at all when I was 23. You know, when I was 23, it's like, hey, the football game's on, and let's get up here. So that's the difference between being a parent in your 20s, if you're a guy, versus 40s. I would have never, I look back now, and the things that I like to do on Friday night, go to a Bible study, I would never imagine doing in my 20s. If I wasn't out, you know, at a bar with some friends having a drink, and boy, that wasn't it. So it's how we change so much as we get older. And that's, you don't get an opportunity to redo things when you do them in your 20s. You get an opportunity to do them differently when you're, so that's, I think that's God's best. He's sometimes, you know, prepares us.
Well, the whole concept of adoption is you know, the truth is God has no grandchildren, so he allowed my parents to raise me. But when we get to heaven, I mean, they've just kind of like my adoptive parents. God is my father. And so their job, like your job, and you didn't say it directly, but everything you said this, is that your job is to get that child to heaven. And, you know, you get the honor, the immeasurable privilege of adopting a child. I know how much you two just want to focus on getting him or her to heaven, to know, love, and serve God.
Yeah, that's a real good point.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm so glad you said that.
Well, you guys both kind of said that with everything you've said. But.
Yeah, well, certainly when you call it out directly, you're absolutely on target, Christine.
Yeah.
But we're kind of working toward that point.
I knew you were. Well, because it's coming to the end of the show, I just summed it up for you. You have a website. Where can people go if they want to learn more about you and your thoughts, or communicate with you, or just pray on, you know, the idea of maybe you're their parents of their child?
You know the URL?
Yeah, totally. It's so easy. I just kept it so simple. It's a standalone site, but you can actually contact us through it, and you can see our blog, you can see our story, and so it's really simple. It's www. all one word, lowercase, adoptionjoy.org. So,
and I'll put that on here. I'll put that with the website. So adoptionjoy.org.
Yeah, so super simple. Lots of pictures, lots of wedding pictures, lots of our adventure pictures, who our family is, and just the journey, really.
I think you make it so easy for people, or, you know, God bless those mothers and fathers or grandparents that are, you know, again, giving up their child. Because I know a friend of mine who, you know, gave birth, let's see, what is it, 50 years ago? Oh yeah, because her son is my age. So 57 years ago, and had to do the old sneak away so no one knows, and you come back and no one knows you're even pregnant. You're not allowed to grieve publicly, and you know, and to wonder and to not touch the child, and they pull him or her away. And, you know, so doing it this way is just such a beautiful way to go, I know I can make a choice. I can see the love, I can connect. And so the loss is not as grand. It's, I think, because you can see the fruit of, like you guys said, the fruit of your sacrifice, and kind of rejoice.
Yeah, it's a gift. Either way, it's a gift, and we can be a part of it. If, you know, I can at least be in the room when she's giving birth. Sometimes they do that. You know, it just depends on where they want us in the journey. But yeah, we totally support, and just, you know, I'm excited. Just excited.
Yeah. Well, for any of you watching this show, if you're a grandma, and I've talked to a lot of friends, I have friends whose daughter is pregnant or was pregnant, and it was the toughest call. And no one ever judges what you as grandma or grandpa want to do, but I as a grandparent want to implore you to choose life. Just choose life. Don't worry about what people think about you. Don't worry about what they think if they see your child pregnant. Oh, you're a preacher, it's your child. That's not what PKs do. You know what? The Lord says, I am no respecter of man. Don't worry about what other people think. Worry about what God thinks. And for the most sacrificial decision, allow your son, your daughter, to give their child up. And if Joy and Michael aren't the parents for you, then pray that the Lord will lead you to that person who is meant to raise your blood. But if you think that Michael and Joy might be, I will vouch that they are representative. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of of mothers and fathers out there just waiting to place a child in their arms. And so I just want to say, I can't even come up with the word. My heart thinks nothing but the greatest things of those of you that are able to sacrifice like that. Give life to your child, and as Joy says, you can give that life a second time. So again, we would like you to go to adoptionjoy.org. Is that what you said, or .com?
.org. Yep, you got it.
If you would like to consider, and if not, look for a reputable pro-life adoption agency near you. But we do have to go off the air. So Joy and Michael, it's been a while. Do you remember how we end the show? You might not, but you'll jump in. You'll jump in, okay?
Don't remember.
You'll remember, right? As soon as I go. Okay, so I'm Dr. Christine Bacon. You've been watching Breakfast with Bacon, and I would like to remind you always to live your life. Can you do it?
Sunny side up.
Yes!
Got it.
I remember.
That's
Sunny
great.
side up.
Sunny side up.